Now the discussion which we wanted to do next, which is not really from a perspective of an investment into real estate stocks, but a perspective into what could happen to property prices. Remember, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were talking to Anuj Puri about how the absorption rate in maybe tier 1 or at least in Mumbai and Bangalore seemed to be on a rise. And we've been talking about how the government is doing a number of efforts in order to push property sales, bring prices lower. And there is probably one more move. The government's draft Ready Reckoner, if implemented, will probably help in reduce the inventory, maybe bring down property prices as well. Lots to talk about with two very special guests, real estate veterans and in their own sense, Anuj Puri of Anarock Property Consultants and Gulam of Knight Frank join me in this discussion. Gentlemen, both of you, good morning and thank you so much for joining in. This is Neeraj here. Anuj, let me start off with you. I mean, last week, Purva, our reporter, filed a story of there being a possibility of property tax for flats sub the 700 square feet carpet area might be waived off completely. Under consideration, not known as yet, but the CM is on record saying that they are going to consider. Then there are these reports of how the revision in Ready Reckoner rates, and there is a Gazette notification for the same being filed as well. Maybe April 1st we'll see that reaching the light of the day as well. What do you make of these developments, and would these lead to a further correction in property prices in Mumbai as also the tier 1, tier 2 cities in Maharashtra?
So good morning, Neeraj, and both the points are very valid, and let me just elaborate on the second point first, which is on the Ready Reckoner rate. In the past, we have seen is that every year, 1st of April, the government, state government, particularly Maharashtra, would increase the Ready Reckoner rates. And really, at this moment in time, they were completely out of whack in comparison to the rates at which the transactions were being done. And several times representations were being made to the government to say, look, the Ready Reckoner rate, what you are publishing, is completely beyond to the level at what transactions are done. So just for your viewers, let me tell you why the Ready Reckoner rate is important for the buyer. Because the stamp duty and registration charge is charged on the Ready Reckoner rate, not at the rate if the transaction is done below the Ready Reckoner rate. So by virtue of that, they were actually paying a lot more stamp duty and registration charge on a higher rate, which wasn't really prevalent. This time the government has come up and said is that we are giving flexibility to say is that either you keep it same or you bring it down. I think representation has been made by CREDAI and several other builder bodies to show that the transactions are being done at much lower value than what you are publishing. And I hope that for the first time after so many years, the government corrects the price. The moment the Ready Reckoner price gets corrected, your positive impact on stamp duty and registration charge comes in, because then it is at a lower price that it is going to be applicable, and the buyer will make that much saving. Today, unnecessarily, they were being asked to pay more, irrespective that they were actually buying the property at a lower rate. So why is the government doing it? I think his government has understood that the property market, certainly in tier 1 towns, is in a big problem. There is a lot of the unsold inventory that is getting built up, and clearly they need to push this through and bring out incentives, bring out some kind of a motivation for the buyer to be able to go ahead and buy. And that's where I feel is that after a long a request to the government, they have understood, and they, for the first time, 1st April 2018, in years that I don't know ever that they have done this before, hopefully they will be able to bring down the Ready Reckoner price.
Gulam, you want to weigh in on that? I mean, the provision, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the provision never allowed for a downward revision, at least until recently. Now there is a change of provision if that does come about, and with an assumption that the government does go ahead and reduce the Ready Reckoner rates. Does that, plus the possibility of a property tax waive off, plus the strict implementation of RERA, at least in the city of Mumbai, everybody's talking about Mumbai as being the role model in terms of that as well. Do all of that finally lead to volumes picking up meaningfully in the city of Mumbai, which is arguably one of the largest market in India?
Well, to answer all the questions that you've put across, very simply, not yet. All these are, to the way we are looking at it, may not really excite the large masses of the buyers to come and start signing the deals. The reasons, first of all, there is no such provision that real estate rate on ready reckoner can only go up. Ready reckoner is only supposed to be a reflection of what's happening in the market. Unfortunately, there is a gap between the understanding of the market realities as far as the government surveyors are concerned, as Anuj just mentioned rightly. There is a lag in for them to really relate to it, accept it, absorb it, and then pass it on in the ready reckoner that the rates have come down or not. Now, that is something which is once again, as Anuj mentioned, people are waiting for ready reckoner rates to streamline so that the stamp duty implications are brought down, because otherwise they were paying, for no reason they were paying so much of money for the stamp duties and paying to the government. Now, your question was whether all this suddenly bring buyers back in the market. May not be so immediately, because while a lot of things that you're talking about are falling in place, the economic sentiments are not really falling in place yet. So the numbers, the GDP growth numbers, the employment growth, etc., that we're talking about are yet to really show on ground. And that is something which people are not really comfortable about unless and until there is a stability in wealth creation side, on job creation side. This may not really happen immediately, and the counter effect of the ready reckoner rates coming down also has to be weighed in, because what typically happens is government bringing the ready reckoner rates down is taken as a stamp of approval or a certainty that the tides have changed. All this while prices were going up, while in reality the buyers were paying less. But then there was always a question, how do you know? Can you really establish? Because the markets are not yet so crystal clear that I can really put across all the data and say here the rates have started coming down. But when the ready reckoner rates start changing the trends, says that now the rates have started coming down, here starts a different phenomenon altogether. It's something they call the falling knife. The buyers then are waiting for one more day to see some more price coming down. Yes, there are buyers who will still buy. These are the ones who genuinely need the house today on date for some reason, so they will buy. But those who can afford to wait for next couple of months, etc., will still wait to see really more of a correction coming down. The ready reckoner value is only an indication that the falling rate regime has begun. So there's a lot of these reasons for which I want to quickly and simply answer your question. The markets may not really turn so soon. I would say next year and a half would still to be watched, and let's not forget the general election also have a huge impact on real estate. During the years of general elections or main big elections, the real estate always takes a step back. Of course, immediately after the election, if the results are favorable, then there is a sentiment improvement and the markets start coming up again. But at least for next year and a half, if you're asking me, once again, markets may not improve so good.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the show, but I have a minute each for an answer from both of you gentlemen before we conclude this discussion. Anuj, would you agree with that? And the reason I'm asking you this question is, buyers anyways knew that if you go to a builder with a check ready to write, you are getting the ticket slightly lower, maybe 10%, maybe 15% lower any which ways. So that option was anyways available. If all of these measures lead to the ancillary taxes also being lowered, doesn't that induce confidence? And was probably that one reason why, I mean, we've seen buyers coming back in a meaningful way in the first couple of months of January and February in Mumbai and Bangalore, as per your report as well. So would you agree with Gulam on that front?
So I partly agree with Gulam, Neeraj. Having said that, I can tell you is that I've just got about half an hour ago data from our sales team, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which was Gudi Padwa. It is just outstanding sales that have happened. I mean, amazing. So it has beaten the record for 2016. It has beaten the record for 2017. Some of these developments, we've sold some 87 apartments, 102 apartments in 3 days. And these are solid developers. They are not at, 10, 20, 30 lakh rupees. These are, projects at 1.5, 2 crore rupees. So suddenly I do feel is that there has been some correction in the price. There has been some positive movement, good quality developers. Certainly the momentum is coming back into the market. Is to answer your question, I think is that initiatives like these will help to bring further momentum, but I think the momentum has started to pick up. You're right, January, February was good, but this Gudi Padwa, the last 3 days have been just outstanding. which I've not seen in the last couple of years.
Well, builders should be happy. Gulam, final thoughts, and again, we don't have to agree on all the points, but just one quick thought on pricing, because you dwelt upon this, that ready reckoner rates coming off, if they come off, might be taken as a first sign of a reversal in prices. We already know that prices had come off a bit. Do you see further downsides here? We have about a minute, Gulam, before the show ends.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. As I said, this is only an indication that the prices have to streamline, have to really get back to the normalcy, because these prices were hugely inflated.
What is
and time will obviously prove that whether this actually
Gulam, what is normalcy? 10-15% or more?
It can even be more.
Wow.
It can even be more, because for last 15-20 years, or at least about a decade and a half, we have been seeing the price only going up at the rate of 8-10% per year, which is absolutely artificial, which had no reason behind this. Obviously, people do give you a reason that the land rates in Mumbai has shot up, but then land rates of Mumbai also shot up because people have been buying apartments at that rate, or people have been selling apartments at that rate. So effectively, the whole system has to correct itself and offer apartments which are at true value, and not what the inflation numbers that we look at, which have been the result of last 15-20 years of arbitrary increase time and again.